Ari, this week for our podcast, Harry Potter and the Anxious Millennials, we read chapter 26 called The Cave. What happens in this chapter?
Dumbledore and Harry ascend into the cave and attempt to, or I shouldn't say like attempt, and pursue the Horcrux? Retrieve the Horcrux.
What's hidden inside and all of its protections.
Oh, wait. Are you caught up on Agatha?
Yes.
We knew it. We knew it was coming. We knew her episode was coming.
Perfect piece of television.
I
Perfect.
know. Yeah, it's so well done. So well done.
And also, like, clearly, like, a sort of like an examination on like dementia too, which I thought was very interesting. Clearly that was an allegory there. Yeah, it was really good.
I always think the whole like time is an illusion thing is actually like I almost can't think about it too much because I think I would get so sucked into it.
It's so heady.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. But of course it's like because of the way we live as humans. Yeah, I don't know. I can't get into it too much, but it's fascinating. So seeing it like that and how it was like at the end, she was like a little girl again. At the end, I was like,
I mean, there is like a level of it's like pre-Judeo-Christian faith, right? Like before all of that, time was cyclical, and then it was like that the advent of that of whatever was going on in the Middle East, where they were like, actually, it's linear. Actually, time starts here and it ends here. That's how we're going to look at time. But then I watched this TikTok the other day, and somebody was like, when you think of a year in your mind, how does it picture to you? And some people, it's like a pie, and they go all the way around, and the months are very specific where they are. This one girl, it was like, wait, okay, I'm going to do it from your perspective. So it was like, January, February, March, April, May, and then June came back up top and then went down and then went back. It was like, she was like, and June kind of floats. Like it starts here and then during June it ends up here.
What?
And everyone was like,
what?
Sorry, what are you talking about? Some people just viewed it as a calendar. Like they just were like, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
8, 10,
almost like a list in my mind, like flipping through a calendar like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like on the iPhone when you zoom out of your calendar and then you can see like the other years.
I think that's what I also think it looks like. But I do understand why people would. I would see if I was saying a year, but seasonally, then I would picture it as a pie because I would see the 4 seasons. But if I was thinking of months specifically, then I would see it as a calendar.
Yeah.
But then it's like crazy to like, as I'm like in my 30s, like engaging with cultures that I did not grow up with, obviously, it's fascinating to learn how many cultures technically have like, they obviously participate in the global standard of like the Julian calendar at this point or whatever, or the Gregorian or whatever the fuck we technically operate under. But like Thailand has its own calendar, like Judaism has its own calendar. I think there's like a bunch of places that have like alternate calendars, and it's like the year like 9672 or whatever. It's so interesting.
9672. Yeah, I mean, I always follow the astrological calendar, like in terms of, I think it is so dumb that we would ever put pressure on ourselves in like January to like hustle. Yeah. Like, I'm like, you are not supposed to be doing that then. That is when you're supposed to be resting. And that is just like physically you can feel that. Physically, that is when you want to be like hibernating. Like your body does not want to be rushing and rising and grinding during that time of the year. I mean, I don't think people should like rise and grind ever, but
it's even weird to think about the idea that like another hemisphere of the earth does not have months the same way we do, right? Like their winter is our summer too. So like maybe January is the perfect time to be like, oh, it's a new start to my life. Like it's so bizarre. Or even like, I'm sure when you moved to California, you were like, the seasons are nice and then rain. Those are the 2 seasons that LA has. Like it's
like
you
nice.
Don't like have like 4 seasons.
No. It's like you have obviously like the hot season. Then it's like the time where it is like nice, like it's a little bit better. It's not like deathly hot, but still warm. And then winter, it's just like dry and cold, but cold for like California. So it's not freezing or anything. But I mean, it does start to feel cold to you there because you're there. Like remember when we went to BTS and we were sitting out like early in the morning? I'm pretty sure I was like freezing that day, but we were close to the ocean, to be fair. So maybe that was why. But here I'm like, oh yeah, this is like what freezing in the winter, like when it would get really cold in like February. I was like, oh right.
RJ's in his Filipino theater group. They have like an intern right now, and he's from the Philippines. Like he just moved here like 6 months ago, and so I saw him last weekend, and I was like, so it's cold, right? And he was like, it's terrible. I can't believe people live like this.
Because when Chicago gets cold, it's cold.
He was wearing like full long sleeves under his like sweater, and then like full, I'm pretty sure like long
underwear.
Long john.
Yeah,
underwear,
you do. I feel like sometimes now I feel like the leggings that I have are all like relatively warm enough, but I remember thinking like, I was like, oh my God, like a regular pair of leggings is not going to keep me warm enough here. Like I got to get the fleece lined ones.
Yeah.
And then like, being like, oh, I have to wear gloves when I go outside because my hands will be like little icicles right away. Just stuff like that. Anyway, I've not even read one bit about this chapter.
Nothing happens.
This isn't important at all.
Boring chapter. Boo.
So the chapter opens with Harry being able to smell salt and hear the waves. They're standing upon like a high rock that's jutting out, and there's like a towering cliff behind them, which I was picturing. Have you seen Pride and Prejudice? With the Keira Knightley version.
No, I've never seen it.
Oh my God, Adam. You would love it. Adam, we have to watch it. Next time I'm in town for like a long time. It is so good. It is so good. I just know you would love it. Oh my God, it's so good. Me and Katie Rabb used to always watch that movie. Like she introduced me to it, and then we would just always watch it all the time whenever she'd come into town because it's so good. There's a scene where Keira Knightley is like standing on this like cliffside looking out over the world. And I'm pretty sure the music in the film is literally like Liz atop the world. I just shared a video recently that was the music on Instagram. That was like the music I paired with it, I think. Right? But I pictured that like just a classic like UK cliff by the sea.
Yeah.
So Harry's like, you think this is where they brought the kids for their little field trip? And Dumbledore's like, no, I don't think they brought the kids here. One, they couldn't. Like, there's no way. It's not like a normal muggle could like get down to this spot, really, other than like literally scaling the cliff with like gear. He was like, I think that Voldemort, Tom Riddle at the time came here with the children that he terrorized. Like just getting down here alone probably would have terrorized them. So they're they're like looking for, Harry doesn't really know what they're looking for. Dumbledore's looking for an entrance to the cave. And they find something that's called a fissure. And I just had never heard that term used before for like a crevice in a cave, like finding a cave. So they discover a fissure that leads to the cave. It's like you almost might miss it. So Dumbledore's like, well, you can take your invisibility cloak off now. Like you don't need it. And then let's just swim into this cave. And I was like, I'm sorry, is this something wizards are so casual about? Is just like getting in the water and swimming into I guess maybe when you're a wizard, you just are confident that you'd be able to like take on whatever. But I was like,
no,
I would really have to psych myself up to like just get into icy seawater.
Can we talk about, I looked this up. Ari, I had to know what the temperature of this water was. Because again, I'm sure it's like June, but
no, but the sea is cold.
Warm. Right.
No, the sea is cold.
So I took a guess as to where they were. I don't think they're in Scotland. So I took a guess that they are at a place east of London called Sheerness. That was just a guess I had. I don't know if it's
that sounds right.
I don't know if it's rocky. I don't know if it's whatever, but it was a place on the ocean.
Okay.
And all I was looking for was sea temperature. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In June, the average sea temperature is 13.9 degrees Celsius. And so for us Americans,
yes,
that is an average of 57 degrees Fahrenheit. You could never get me in that fucking water. I do not care what was on the other side.
You would have to like, you would literally, as soon as you got into the water, you would be like, do you know what I mean? Like your throat, like that feeling. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know. I would have to really like, yeah. And you're just, again, in clothes, swimming in your clothes.
I also made a note that she says Harry took off his invisibility cloak and shoved it in his pocket. And I was like, what are we talking about? What does that mean?
You can't just drop that casually for us. This is the second time. It's like, in his little pocket.
It is a cloak that fully enveloped 3 11-year-olds at one point. Like, what are you talking about?
Is it just like it just keeps like folding and like just getting small, like softer and smaller and more liquidy, that then it's like this little tiny thing that
I don't understand. I would understand it more if Harry was like, he had learned a spell to shrink something down so small that he could fit it in his pocket. And then I was like, great, that's all I need. But I know Harry has not done that.
That's the thing. That's the thing that I think is why I get so annoyed about it, honestly, Adam, is because she could literally just write the quickest little sentence and I would be like, oh, okay, sure. Because it's magic. Yeah. It's magic.
Yeah.
So like, I believe
anything can happen.
Anything can happen, but you have to say that like that.
Say it.
Yeah, that is something that happens. So, so yeah, they just plop into the water. Dumbledore's executing this perfect breaststroke.
He says a perfect breaststroke is so funny to me.
Now I was on
113-year-old man. How old is Dumbledore? Let's be real.
70s. No. I mean, like, well, 70s by like Muggle standards. So imagine like a 70-year-old man just being like, yeah. Now Adam, I don't know if you remember, but I was on the LaSalle swim team.
I do not remember this. Were you really?
I was, yes, when I was in 7th grade.
7th grade.
Yeah. And I competed in, I think it was breaststroke and definitely backstroke. But I'm pretty sure breaststroke and backstroke were the two that I competed in. Never got first. Never was that good. I was just doing it for fun. I think I got 3rd one time. I think.
That's pretty good.
But breaststroke is the one where like when you lift your arm. Wait, let me check this.
No, you're right.
I think so. Wait, this is different though.
Because there's four strokes, right? Backstroke, breaststroke.
Wait. Breaststroke in this one. Hold on, wait, is this right? Let me watch this. I'm completely incorrect. That is not the breaststroke at all. The breaststroke is where you're like, wait, what the hell am I thinking of? This is so weird. This is literally like.
Are you thinking of freestyle?
It's literally like it looks what I would describe as like the butterfly. Do you remember butterfly? Like how you like come up out of the water and then go? Like that's. Yeah,
butterfly is the one where you like do that, right?
Yeah, but that's what these people are doing. Am I thinking freestyle? Yeah, they're like breaststroke is like where you come out and then like go back in the water. That I've thought that was that's butterfly to me. You're agreeing with me though, right? You thought breaststroke was this, right?
Breaststroke I thought was this one, but then I think that's actually freestyle, isn't it?
I thought, okay, well, let me say, I thought breaststroke was the one where your head is under the water. When your arm comes up, you lift your head up and take a breath when your arm is coming up. So you're like, back under the water.
I think that's freestyle.
Back under the water. That's freestyle?
Yeah.
Yeah, freestyle. Oh my gosh, that is so funny. I literally would have called that breaststroke for the rest of my life. Yeah, so breaststroke is like you come up, put your arms under the water, push, and then like repeat it again, basically.
And you can like fold your legs too, right? Like on butterfly, your legs have to like be like a mermaid. They have to stay together.
I thought they were like bent butterfly stroke.
No, they can like bend this way, but they can't you can't like bend your knees out. You can't do that.
Oh, okay. They have to be.
You're supposed to look like a butterfly's body, where you like it's just like one stick with two wings.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Fascinating. I don't swim. Can you tell?
Well, that's why I'm so surprised, because I've like been a swimmer since I was like 3. Like we got in swim lessons so early, so that's why I'm so shocked, because I'm like, did not know.
Well, you're not as good as Dumbledore.
No, definitely not. I would not have been able to do that.
Perfect breaststroke.
I would have been freestyling. Mm-hmm. That is so interesting. I wonder, like, if why they weren't necessarily teaching us that, like, telling us what breaststroke was. That's interesting. Anyway, fascinating. It's a true discovery moment for me.
Mm-hmm. It's important to learn as you age. It's very important.
Can't believe I just like didn't know that was. I'm like, did I lose that at some point? I must have known at some point. So they get into their breaststroking. Well, Harry's probably freestyling. Harry's
probably dog paddling. Let's be real.
Flailing. Harry and Dumbledore make it in through the fissure. They like kind of go into this little cave area that Harry says, like, if it was at tide time, it like
high tide,
it would be high tide. It would be filled with water.
Yeah.
Then when they get in, Dumbledore like gets up out of the water, is like touching the wall. He's like ends up illuminating a mark on the wall with his wand. And Harry at first is like, "Oh, you figured it out. You got it." But then the mark fades away. But thankfully, because Harry spoke up, Dumbledore is then aware that Harry's like, doubt. And he's like, "Oh, Harry, I'm so sorry." And then he like dries him. Did he just not dry his own robes? Was he just soaking wet this whole time? Maybe he non-verbally dried his own.
Maybe he non-verbally did it, yeah.
So then he dries Harry, so Harry's no longer soaking wet, and he feels much better. And then Dumbledore's still looking at this wall, trying to figure out what to do, this wall of rock. And then he's like, "Oh, surely not so crude."
This is like a direct one-to-one to like Fellowship of the Ring. When they're trying to get into the Mines of Moria.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just staring at it, waiting. Yeah.
Speak, friend. And enter.
There is a lot of this chapter specifically that reminds me of Lord of the Rings generally.
Yeah.
Or like people, like the dead people underwater.
Yep.
Which I think that really isn't even necessarily a reference to, that's more just like the bog people of like Great Britain, because it's so boggy.
It is a boggy place. So then he's like, "Oh, it's so crude. Whoever wants to enter has to like spill blood to be able to get through." And then he has like this little rant where he's like, once again, it's just so simple. He's so simple-minded, Tom Riddle. Gosh. And Harry's like, "Well, yeah, but like if you don't have to like cut your arm, it would be nice to like not have to do that." But Dumbledore's like, "Yeah, but there's just like worse things than like having to give your blood or whatever. But then it's funny because Harry's like, no, don't do it. I'll do it. And Dumbledore's like, no, your blood is much more important than mine. And I just want to say, I don't know if it's just because I'm like obviously getting older and I'm like more like sentimental or more nostalgic or whatever, but like something about this like something about Dumbledore saying this, that it's like trying to help keep young people or like help foster that kind of like maintaining the pureness of like youth. I don't know. I just was like, I get it. I get what he's saying. And I think when I was a kid, I felt like Harry, where I was like, oh, but like Dumbledore's like old and frail and like he's an old man. So like Harry should do it because he's like young and strong or whatever. But like I don't know, just getting older, I understand more that I'm like, no, we really need to like protect our youth and like, yeah, I don't know.
I would have let Harry cut his hand, especially because Dumbledore's going to fix it anyway. So I was like, okay.
But he fixes his arm like no problem. I think it's just obviously painting the picture of like Dumbledore is like, no, you're the one that is worth protecting, preserving.
Sure.
It's you that needs to be protected. So then the archway appears thanks to Dumbledore like cutting his arm. He heals his arm real quick. Dumbledore's like, let's walk. Because they see this green light that's in the middle of the massive dark cave. There's like this little spooky green light in the middle. He's like, let's walk over there, but be very careful not to step into the water. So Harry's like, do you think that there's a Horcrux in here? And Dumbledore's like, oh yeah, there definitely is. And Harry's like, well, should we try just like summoning it or something? And Harry like says this knowing that it's kind of in his head. He's like, that's like a stupid suggestion. But Dumbledore just completely stops and is like, no, yeah, let's try that. Do you want to give it a go? Yeah. So Harry's like, Accio Horcrux. And then there's this loud like crash sound that comes out of the water. Harry sees something very big and pale erupt out of what was just like completely still water and then just like falls back in again. And then obviously Harry's like alarmed. His like heart is racing. But then when he looks at the water again, it's as if like nothing's even happened. So the water is like completely still. And I was like, why is that scarier?
It's so scary.
Seeing a ripple. Like that is so scary. I was like, oh my God, not the still, because not moving water.
It should just be water.
Yes.
Because like it's a cave that gets flooded.
Yeah, that's true. It's like going against nature. Yeah.
It's like so bizarre.
Yeah. I hate it. I know Adam hates what you're like. One of your biggest fears is like deep water, isn't it? So
I could not have even swam to this cave.
Yeah, no way.
I would have been like, we would have gotten to the shore and I would have been like, can we apparate from here to there?
Yeah.
Can you get us there?
Can you magic like a bridge for us to go across? You're imagining a wizard. You in the boat, you literally just like would not have looked down. You would have just been like,
he's fully like peering over the side, and I really
that would be me.
Like, no,
yeah, I don't get weird about. I mean, I wouldn't like to be out in the middle of an ocean just because practically I would be like, oh, this is scary, and like I could die. But like if I was out, if I had a life jacket on and I was like in the water, I wouldn't be afraid. But that's also because I've been like very comfortable. My mom made sure we were comfortable around water from a very young age.
You would have been. I would be fully looking. You would have been afraid of the temperature of the water.
Oh yes, yeah. My body would have been like, "What are we doing?" But I would have been curiously looking into the water as well. So Harry's like, "What was that? Like that can't be good." And Dumbledore's like, "I think that is what will respond once we try to get the Horcrux." So that was a very good idea to just try summoning it because we immediately found out what we potentially might be facing. And Harry's like, but we don't know what it was. Like we didn't actually see what it was. And I did wonder, does Dumbledore already know at this point? Did he know it was inferi and just had?
I feel like he does because he brings up the fire.
Well, he does. Yeah. So when they're in the boat, he does realize. Like he says.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm wondering if he already knew in this moment that it was going to be a bunch of dead bodies.
I guess it's weird because when it's weird to me that this is the only real experience we have with the inferi in the whole series, even though they are referenced as like Voldemort is using them under his control or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's weird to me because they are underwater in this chapter, and in my mind, they're really just reanimated bodies.
Corpses, yeah.
So it's weird that they're like specifically like I think Joe has already done this before, a similar thing with like the mer people and the Grindylows and the things that are underwater that's like a frightening is something like coming out of the water and getting you.
Yeah.
The placidity of the lake being disrupted, right? Like that's all like very eerie and whatever.
Yeah.
But, it's just weird to me because it's weird that they're like just dead bodies. Like, how do you amass that many dead bodies into this like cave?
Do you know what? That is actually the thing that I was like, that is really fucked up to think about. Like, are these all because it's men, women, and children? We find out later, and I'm like,
yes.
And you know what? There are some non-binary zombies in there. Okay, I don't care what Joe says. I don't care.
Absolutely.
They them coming out of the water. That's what's really going to scare Joe. Suck on it, Joe. So, yeah, Harry's like, but we don't know. We don't know what that was. And Dumbledore's like, oh, I doubt there's like just one of them. I think there's going to be more than one. And I was like, you didn't answer his, like, that's not really addressing what Harry just said.
Right.
Because he's like, we don't know what it is. He's like, oh, well, there'll be more of them. I was like,
Harry, what they are. Okay, girl, answer the question.
I know. I was like, okay. I would have been like, this is where the like British way of communicating sometimes. I'm like, no, but can you be direct?
Yeah.
Can you just directly give me an answer to my question?
No, they're not interested in doing
that. They're like, oh, well. What? Yes or no?
But it's more fun to use subtext for everything, isn't it?
They discuss the lake and how they'll have to cross said lake to get to the Horcrux. Because they're like, the Horcrux is that green glowing light.
They do agree that it's a bad idea to step into the water. They're like, we definitely should not.
We should not go into the water. Mm-hmm. Dumbledore kind of like stops in his tracks, and Harry bumps into him and then almost like topples over above the water. Dumbledore grabs onto him and he's like, so sorry, I should have told you. I was about to stop. Harry has no idea why he's stopped. He literally can't see. Like Harry the whole time is just like, what the fuck is he seeing? Like he just has no idea.
And it's not explained. Because even when he's like, I can sense magic, Harry's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, he's like,
what
the general creepy vibe.
I learn how to sense magic.
Yeah, he's just like the general creepy vibes that I'm picking up on. Is that what you're talking about?
Right.
And so he's just like looking. He's like looking at the wall. Harry's just kind of like waiting because he's like, it doesn't want to disturb him, obviously. And then Dumbledore just straight up pulls a chain that is connected to a boat out of thin air. Out of nowhere.
Air. It's crazy.
And Harry's like, oh my God.
It is the most unrealistic part of this chapter.
But do you know what? This is what I mean, though, that him saying to Harry, oh, this place has known magic. Oh, I can sense it. And what we know about Dumbledore, that's enough for me. I'm like, okay, fine. Thank you for just saying something. Because then at least I'm like,
he's right. Like he explained, like Voldemort would have to be able to get back for any reason. Like he would be able to have to go back to this place if he ever wanted to collect his Horcrux and move it to a new location. So like that
exactly. Yeah. So when the boat comes up, Harry's like, oh my God, this is great, but are we sure that this boat is going to be safe? And Dumbledore's like, oh yeah, exactly what you said. He would have created a way to ensure he could get back to the Horcrux if he needed to. And Harry's like, will we both be able to make it across though in that boat? Like, it looks like it's meant for one person. And Dumbledore's like, I don't think it will register you in the boat because I'm guessing what like enchantment he put over it recognizes a certain amount of power. And so Voldemort being the way he is, he would have never thought like a 16-year-old kid, not a fully qualified adult wizard, would be able to like even get this far. And then Harry's kind of feeling like a little down on himself.
Do you think like a squib, like Mrs. Filch or Argus Filch or Mrs. Fig,
yeah,
could have gotten in the boat with Dumbledore?
Yeah. I mean, we later learned that, well, I guess a house elf is smaller because a house elf goes with Voldemort, doesn't he? Not Regulus. Goes with Voldemort. Where was I?
At the boat.
About to get into the boat.
About to get into the boat.
So yeah, so Dumbledore's going on about how like Voldemort obviously like underestimates, like would have underestimated like an underage wizard, blah blah blah. And Harry's kind of like, oh well, shit. So Dumbledore makes sure to say Voldemort's mistake, Harry. Like, doesn't say anything about you. That's just him having a very limited view of the value people have in this world. So they both squeeze into the boat. Harry can see into the pitch black water and suddenly sees a pale, what looks like a human hand. And he's like, before he can even like finish the thought to Dumbledore of what he thinks he just saw, he sees a dead man floating in the water with his robes swirling around him. Now, Adam,
his eyes are open.
Yes, staring blankly, very much like the swamp in Lord of the Rings.
It is exactly like the swamp in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. The Return of the King.
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, is that Two Towers when they walk through that?
Is that Two Towers?
I can't remember, to be honest. I'm ashamed of myself. I should know.
Because it's before. I don't remember.
I think it's Two Towers.
First one.
No, it's not. It's either two. I believe it's Two Towers. Okay. So I don't know, Adam, if you remember the film, what they did.
I really don't. I haven't seen this in years.
I want to start by saying I get why they didn't do just like dead, like Walking Dead, dead bodies, like that type of thing. I get why they didn't do that. I don't know if what they chose ends up being like that scary. They're kind of more just like skeletal, humanoid things. You can't really like make out. They all look the same. They don't really like look different. And I don't think necessarily like the CGI is bad or stuff like that, but they're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It probably would have been, you don't watch Game of Thrones, but there's this moment in Game of Thrones. I can't remember which season it. Oh, is it Harrenhal? Harrenhal? No. Oh gosh, this is going to drive me nuts that I can't remember the name. It's where there's these wildling characters. They go up, and the big thing in Game of Thrones is the White Walkers. They're like taking over because obviously anyone that dies can then become a White Walker, which is like why they're terrifying. So there's this moment where one of the wildlings is like fighting, like defending the other wildlings that are trying to leave. And she like turns around after like killing a bunch of them. And then there's just like a ton of White Walker children. And it is like really scary, like really creepy. And and they just end up killing her because they're kids. And she just like tried to get her kids on a boat to save them, or like put her kids on a boat. She can't like fight them, because she's just like, terrified and like distraught seeing them as like zombies. And I just feel like something like that, seeing like kind of men, women, and children represented would have been a lot more impactful, but maybe that was why they purposefully made them just a bit more undefined because they didn't want it to be that scary. I don't know. But when we watch the movie, you'll see what I mean, that they just all kind of look like the same. I don't know if it would have been scarier if they were like wizards in robes with like black eyes. Like, I don't know. I don't know like what a better option would have been. I would have had to like look at the other designs they offered up. But
I wonder if they were worried that it would, if they did like, because that, I think you're right. It is the two towers that I think they were like, oh, I wonder if it's going to look too close. Because they're all described as being like perfectly white. Like they've lost all their color.
So pale,
which is basically what is depicted in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So I wonder if they were just like, let's just not even feel like we're too close to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been. Because these franchises were compared like so much during that time.
All the time. Yeah.
So much. So Dumbledore's like, when Harry's like, oh my God, there's dead bodies literally right under us. There's dead bodies. And Dumbledore's like, yeah, we don't need to worry about them right now. And Harry's like, oh, so later. Well, okay. And he's like, Harry's like, but that one jumped. And Dumbledore's like, yeah, I think they'll probably come up out of the water whenever we try to get this Horcrux. He's like so calm about it.
Yeah.
And Harry's like, all right, cool. But then this is where Dumbledore says the bit about how he's like, well, they don't like light and they don't like warmth. So I think, we can use fire to kind of essentially ward them off if we need to. So what?
He has there's this like part in it where he's like, well, Harry, you have to remember that Voldemort is so scared of death and bodies.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, he's scared of bodies? I didn't even know what that sentence meant. I was like, when is... Okay.
Just the representation of the dead body, like scared.
Death, I think, is like what scares him. But I do think it's crazy that he fully was like, and listen, they're just bodies. They're not scary. And I was like, okay, that's fine and all, but dead bodies are scary. It's not that just that it's a fear of death. It is also that it is a but like, and also corpse.
They're reanimated to act. Right. Like it's not just someone that is laid to rest.
Correct.
They're about to attack y'all. What do you mean? Like, oh, don't worry about it.
They're just bodies, Harry. You and I are bodies. We will return as bodies in the afterlife. Okay.
So, all right. So they make it to the little island in the middle. There's a basin in the middle of the island.
There's a palm tree. They've got some coconut drinks. Yeah, it's like this gorgeous tropical island in the middle.
There's a basin in the middle of there's like a pedestal. And that's what the green light is emanating from. It's full of this emerald liquid that's glowing. So Dumbledore at first tries to touch it. And Harry's like, no, don't. And Dumbledore's like, I can't do anything to it. It won't even let me get like close enough to interact with it. And so he's like examining it, trying to figure out what to do. Harry's just standing there silently because he doesn't want to like interrupt, Dumbledore trying to figure this out. And then after enough time has passed, Harry's like, do you think the Horcrux is in there? Because like, Harry,
to be clear, in the movie, you can see under the water is the locket, right? Like that's how it's depicted in the movie, isn't it? You can like see beneath the water.
Maybe I can't remember
through the water. I think because in this,
you're probably right.
For some reason, I had mixed it up in my brain, and I was like, "Oh, they have to use Helga Hufflepuff's cup to drink the water," and then I was like, "Oh no, it's just another."
Oh my god, I love that. They have to use Helga's cup. So Harry's like, do you think the Horcrux is in there? And Dumbledore's like, yeah.
No.
It's definitely in here.
No. There's a whole nother room we have to get to.
Yeah. Oh no, this is just the beginning.
Yep. Now, if it was a video game, this would be room 1 of 3.
Yeah, exactly. Harry's like, Dumbledore is like, it's clear that I'm going to have to drink this. And Harry's like, won't it kill you? Wouldn't it kill you? And Dumbledore's like, oh no, Voldemort wouldn't want to kill the person who reached this island. And then Harry kind of like gives him this look. And Dumbledore's like, sorry, to clarify, he wouldn't want to kill the person right away.
Immediately.
He'd want to like, yeah, he was like, he'd want to question them. He'd want to figure out why they were here, how much they knew about this. He'd want to know all about what was going on. So before Dumbledore starts drinking this potion, he's like, whatever's in this potion is probably going to try and prevent me from taking the Horcrux. So can you give me your word that no matter what happens, you will ensure I keep drinking this? And Harry kind of is like, no. And Dumbledore's like, remember what we talked about before we came here? Do you remember what you said to me? That you would listen to whatever I said? And Harry's like, yeah, I do remember that, but why can't I drink the potion instead? And Dumbledore's like, no, I'm older. I'm more experienced. It doesn't make sense for you to drink this potion. I should be the one to drink it. And then right before he's like about to take a sip, he's like, you need to give me your word. Give me your word, Harry. And Harry's like, yeah, okay. And before Harry can even like finish the sentence, Dumbledore is like chugging his first goblet. So after the first goblet, he like shakes his head.
Like?
Oh, I can't imagine. Something really bad, like rancid, like the worst, like strongest tequila.
Vinegar. He's just drinking vinegar. Just straight vinegar. Ugh.
I hate the taste of like just straight tequila. So that's what I would think of. Just like, oh, the worst. Vinegar is fun though, because that is like, you would do like a with vinegar.
Yeah. You'd be able to do it, but you'd be like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. You like pickle brine.
Pickle juice. So you'd be not like, straight vinegar alone though is not good.
Yeah.
So Dumbledore makes it through the first 3 goblets, no problem really. He's just like drinking with his eyes closed. On the 4th one, he staggers and falls forward, and then his breathing is heavy. So Harry's like, can you hear me? I'm here. Dumbledore's face is twitching as if he's like asleep and dreaming. So Harry takes over. He like grabs this crystal cup and holds it steady so it doesn't spill. Dumbledore's like panting and he's saying like he doesn't want to. Don't make me. But Harry like obviously trying to keep his word to Dumbledore is like trying to help him keep drinking. So it says like Harry's like hating himself as he's doing this. Like it's excruciating to have to keep like giving Dumbledore these glasses full of this stuff. And Dumbledore's like starting to yell.
Most traumatic thing you've ever experienced in your life, right?
Yeah.
Like basically forced torturing someone.
Yeah, yeah. And he like keeps trying to like assure him that he's all right. Like he's saying like, it's all right, I'm here. But it just keeps getting worse. Like Dumbledore's like asking him to let him go. He's like screaming. He's saying he can't. Harry's hands are like shaking as he's like trying to give it to him. Cause yeah, it's like traumatizing. And again, Harry's like hating himself. Like every time he has to give him more, but like every time Dumbledore drinks it. So like he's doing it every time. And then at one point, Harry's like, this isn't real. It's not real. But like, he doesn't even think Dumbledore can hear him. Yeah. So at one point he gets to like 7 goblets of this. And Dumbledore starts saying like, don't hurt them, hurt me instead. And then Harry just keeps telling him that drinking this will help, even though obviously it just keeps making everything worse. And on the 9th goblet, Dumbledore's like, not that. I'll do anything. And then after he drinks the 9th one, he's like, please no more. Harry's like, can see the bottom of the basin. He's like, we're almost there. We're almost done. And then Dumbledore screams that he wants to die. And then he screams, "Kill me." And Harry, holding like the last goblet, is like, drink this one and it'll be over. And so Dumbledore does. He drinks it. And then he collapses. And so Harry's like, "Oh shit, no." He's like, no, you said it wasn't poison. He like tries to renervate. Nothing happens. He tries to renervate him again. Then he does come to. He like notices his eyelids flickering. And so then Harry's like, "Oh, thank God. I didn't lose him. He's still with me." Mm-hmm. But then Dumbledore asks for water because he's like, his throat is, we can only imagine what's going on. Yeah, full of vinegar. So Harry tries to summon water by doing the Aguamenti charm, but it doesn't work. The water vanishes. Dumbledore's drawing like deep rattling breaths, and then the breaths start to fade. So Harry is like panicking now. And then he realizes that he has to get water from the cave. But Adam, isn't that salt water?
I don't know what it is, girl. It's nothing holy. It's not holy water.
I don't think it would. If it's seawater, isn't it going to be salty? So he can't.
I don't think
something about the cave. It's different.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's like, oh, I don't think it's like, oh, I'm really thirsty. I'm so thirsty. I think it's
you just need something else. Okay, yeah. Sure. Or the water in there is somehow enchanted that like you could drink it, but it just triggers the inferi, obviously.
I mean, there's no way that water that is housing hundreds of
girl, I know. Like,
if it's not salt water from the ocean, it's salty from their fucking decaying bodies. Like, I
don't even want to think about it.
Gross.
So
do you
Bible.
I wondered if he could have, because it was like the water wouldn't go in the chalice or the goblet that he had like made, that he had created. So I wonder if, because obviously the potion, whatever he had to drink, had like changed the cup so that it wouldn't be able to hold water, knowing that whoever drank it would want water, I'm assuming. But then my question is like, Harry cannot do this, but could there have been a second conjuring of a different goblet and then like a solo cup?
Maybe, yeah. Or and just out of the wand directly, like a little fountain into his mouth.
Just like,
beep. Yeah, I don't know. So Dumbledore's like, late kind of, because Harry's going to get the water and Dumbledore is like maybe like kind of partially sitting up. So when Harry gets the water from the cave, as Voldemort orchestrated it to be, that was the only way. He tries to like give the goblet full of water to Dumbledore, but he's grabbed by a dead hand. So all he manages to do is like throw the water like onto Dumbledore's face. So then, yeah, I know. Yeah. Exactly. So then,
okay.
Thank you. So then Harry,
Dumbledore actually came to a little faster, but he was a little pissed that he got water. So he was like, he had to be like, I'm going to give it a second before I hop in.
Let me count to 5. So Harry turns and sees, obviously, a bunch of corpses, a bunch of inferi walking out of the water towards him. The water is like churning because they're all getting up and coming out of the water. It specifically says men, women, and children, bodies of men, women, and children, are moving towards the bit of rock that they're on. Harry is able to knock like some of them down with spells. He's just like trying anything he can think of, except like a fire related spell. But it doesn't work. There's way too many of them.
I mean, like, I know he says like, oh my God, I was so much pressure, I forgot, blah, blah, blah. But like, sure.
I understand maybe it taking you a couple.
Yeah.
Like you try a couple things and then you're like, oh, right. Fire. Mm-hmm. So Harry doesn't really have any luck with the spells he's casting. He even tries Sectum Sempra, but of course that doesn't do anything because they're dead.
They're dead. They don't care.
They end up grabbing him and they're basically getting ready to take him into the water with them. And the thought process in Harry's head is like, he's just going to become another body that is like guarding Voldemort's Horcrux. And this is it for him. But then suddenly out of nowhere, there's like this ring of fire that erupts behind him. And then all the inferi drop Harry. So he like stands and rushes back or turns around, sees Dumbledore casting this like ring of fire around him. Harry rushes back to him and like gets within this ring of fire. Dumbledore grabs the Horcrux and puts it into his pocket. Puts it in his robe pocket. And gestures Harry to come to his side. The inferi are all like going back into the water because they're terrified of the fire. And Harry can observe that pretty much all of Dumbledore's effort is going into keeping this ring of fire around them in order to keep them safe. So he kind of tries to do like whatever else needs to be done. So they make it across the water. Once they get to the other side, Dumbledore says that he's very weak. Harry says that he'll get them back. He's like hearing how, I don't know, like weak Dumbledore sounds. He's like really freaked out. And then when they get back to the archway, Harry's like, "Oh, I cut my arm on the rock anyway, so I'll just do it. Don't worry about getting your knife out again." Harry just keeps saying like, "Don't worry, don't worry." They make it through the doorway, obviously, because of Harry offering up his blood. But yeah, he just keeps like comforting Dumbledore, telling him not to worry. He's like, "I'll get us back, okay?" Because it's just really scaring him, like how weak Dumbledore's voice sounds.
Yeah.
And then the chapter ends with Dumbledore saying, "I'm not worried, Harry. I am with you." And that's the end of the chapter.
I'm assuming they apparate back from when they get out of the blood door.
Yeah, Harry's going to like apparate with him, yeah.
Okay. Why didn't they just apparate to the blood door?
They didn't know where it was, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, sure.
He didn't know. He had to discover it first. And now that they knew where it was, I don't know. Good question.
Well, that wraps up this chapter. Next week, we'll be reading chapter 27, The Lightning Struck Tower. Say your goodbyes while you still can.
Wasn't the Lightning Struck Tower also in Agatha all along? Or a tower?
Oh, it was I think it's just the tower. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a comment from last week's episode.
Ooh,
it says, this is from Ida Amelia.
Yeah, I think she's up to comment for it. Ida Amelia.
She says, "Hi, my fellow dragons." Now, I'm pretty sure they mean one time RJ and I on our channel were called old dragons by being like, they were like, "You shouldn't be talking about K-pop because I
remember RJ saying that, being like old dragon. Yeah.
Yeah. So she says, "Hi, my fellow dragons. I don't know if you've already touched upon the subject, but where the hell do the teachers and Mr. Door sleep in Hogwarts?" Mr. Door is very funny to me. Mr. Dumbledore.
Like Dumbledore?
Yeah.
Mr. Door? I've never heard that before.
Does he have his own suite? Are teachers sleeping in bunk beds somewhere? Anyway, I bet it smells there, so I shouldn't even care. Great episode again, slowly going through your older videos, and they make me so happy. Love from Finland.
From Finland. Wow. Oh.
So I think some of the teachers, I would say the adjunct professors, actually probably all the teachers who aren't heads of house live in Hogsmeade. Probably.
Yeah, you would think, wouldn't you? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like, I always imagined, I don't know if this is real at all, but where their offices are, is there not like a little bedroom off? Like,
I'm thinking like
to the side of the office?
Maids' quarters in castles.
Yeah, like a Downton Abbey situation. Yeah, how they're like upstairs. Yeah. I'm sure there's like an area where they all sleep, like all have their own individual rooms or something. Yeah.
I don't think every teacher that teaches at Hogwarts, like I don't think Madam Hooch lives at Hogwarts.
No, why would she?
I do think it would be like, okay, so we know for sure Hagrid is the only one we can 100% say lives at Hogwarts.
Yeah, right.
Because he has a house.
Well, I think we can say all the heads of house would have to live there as well. Because that's
what I think too.
They get up in the middle of the night.
I think Dumbledore also has to live there.
And then we know Trelawney lives there.
We know Trelawney lives there because she was going to like get kicked out and move.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I do think there's like an option for people, but I'm assuming some people like don't. But then like I also like Poppy never has a day off.
So no, and where would she even sleep then? Off to the side of the
Well, she has her like office that she goes to. There must be a bed in there too, because they say she like has her office she goes to in this book when Creature and Dobby show up and are making a bunch of noise.
Yeah, I don't know. I always imagined that they had like a little private suite off of their office, but
Madam Pince, she does not live at Hogwarts.
Why not her specifically?
I just feel like she's like, I'm clocking in.
I'm clocking out.
She clocks in at 8. She clocks out late, right? They keep the library open late for studying. So she's like, I work a 12-hour day. When the day is over, I'm leaving. I'm going home.
I'm done. Okay? You're lucky you got me for these 12 hours.
Right. And I'm not getting overtime for anything after 8? Bitch, please.
Oh my God.
Argus Filch definitely lives at Hogwarts.
Yeah.
But I would say like probably Professor Sinistra doesn't. She's probably like, hey, I'm a Tuesday, Thursday teacher. Those are my classes.
When you say doesn't live there, then these are all the ones that live in Hogsmeade.
I feel like they all have. Everybody else lives in Hogsmeade.
They have to be close by. Well, I guess they don't technically. They could just apparate close to Hogwarts if they really wanted to.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's true too.
But heads of house, definitely need to be there to be on hand.
But
I always imagined it like
Snape has a house.
Yeah, but that is a whole other thing. That is like, do you know what I mean? Though that is like so random and just like, why and why does he have that house?
Right,
just for whatever Voldemort needs him to do. I'm guessing. But yeah. Anyway. Interesting. Well, like Dumbledore definitely lives off of his office. His office is so grand.
Slughorn, Lupin, Moody all lived at Hogwarts for sure while they were like professors there. But like, I don't think Gilderoy Lockhart was like sleeping every night at Hogwarts.
No, he would have had to.
I mean, he could was even good at apparating. The only thing we know he was good at was memory charms.
I feel like if I don't know how it works at a boarding school. Like, I don't know if people do like the teachers.
That's the real question we should be asking. Is like, where do the teachers in a boarding school live? I would assume
that they have to live there too.
I guess I could just Google. Most boarding school teachers also live on campus in one of the dormitories. They supervise the students who live there.
Okay, apparently in Hogwarts Legacy, they answered the question of where do. Okay, but this is to your point, Adam. There's an article about Minerva McGonagall on Pottermore that says she lived in Hogsmeade when she was married, but after her husband died, she went back to the small bedroom next to her office. So teachers have the option to get a room for their own, which obviously many of them have, but can also commute from Hogwarts if they prefer to live there, just as you said.
There we go.
Literally, Adam. It's the combination of what we both said. I was like, do they have like a little bedroom off their office? And then you were like, I bet they live in Hogsmeade if they're not there. So we got it.
It's both.
Spot on.
Well spotted. Thank you for writing in. We love hearing what you guys think and any questions you may have. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts, as well as video versions on the Ampliverse YouTube channel and on Spotify. As always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so that we can get a perfect Newt score. 5 stars only, or else you will have to encounter the inferi. Period.
Yeah, no. The book version.
The book. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HBAnxious or YouTube and TikTok at The Ampliverse. We are hosted on Spotify for podcasters, so thank you to them and are a proud member of The Ampliverse. Check them out at theampliverse.com. Thank you, Ariana.
Thank you, Adam.
with 2 R's and 2 N's. And as always, renovate.
Renovate.
Aguamenti.
Renovate.